raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
Rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning, death and hatred to mankind, poison in their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah. Politicians hide themselves away. They only started the war. Why should they go out to fight? They leave that role to the poor. Lord, yeah. Time will tell on their power minds, making war just for fun, treating people just like pawns in chess. Wait till judgment day comes, oh Lord, yeah. Now in darkness, world stops turning, ashes where the body's burning. No more war pigs have the power, hand of God has struck the hour. Day of judgment, God is calling, on their knees the war pigs crawling, begging mercies for their sins. Satan laughing spreads his wings.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody out there is doing well. An hour delay on the show tonight. I apologize for that. If you knew where I was, you wouldn't believe me. I'm serious, people. I live an interesting life. Let's just say that. I live a very, very interesting life. And it's been an interesting day. A very, very interesting day. Solemn, in a sense. That right there was War Pigs by Sarah King. You can find her on YouTube. YouTube, Sarah King. Just type that in and War Pigs Live, and great version of the song. Absolutely love it. She's got an amazing voice. And just a few reminders as we get going today. Tomorrow, I will be at the camping trip. Red Pill annual camping trip in Eureka, Missouri. If you're going, I look forward to meeting you. Look forward to hanging out with you, having a few beers and shooting the shit. It's going to be a great time out in Missouri. I'm leaving early in the morning, so no show tomorrow night. Will be content on our premium level. We'll be doing blogs, that type of stuff, social media. But just letting you guys know that obviously no show tomorrow. I do have an Unrestricted Warfare episode that will be coming out, probably playing tomorrow in place of the Daily Dose. So keep that in mind. What else do we have going on? I think that's it. Just the camping trip starting tomorrow, and then I'm back Monday full service, which will be fun and exciting, and I can't wait to jump back into it because a lot of things are happening. There's a lot of things happening on the surface level of what we're learning, and the takedown of the deep state, the exposing of the deep state is happening right now, and it's exciting. But guys, there's stuff happening on the back end. There's stuff happening on the back end, and stuff that I learned today is pretty crazy, and it doesn't get any more legitimate than where I heard this from. So we're going to go through the show, and I'm going to touch on a few different things of what I think is going to unfold over the course of the next few weeks. I'm saying the next few weeks. So let's jump into some of this stuff I can't tell, but let's listen to Tulsi Gabbard right here and listen to what she has to say, because this has been an epic day. I mean, the evidence is coming out. And by the way, with the evidence that you're seeing coming out right now, guys, you haven't seen the smoking gun yet. This is just prepping the stage with evidence. Oh, it's going to get a lot better. But listen to this.
Thank you, Tulsi. And we do want to take questions on this topic while the director has time for this topic. She will leave. I'm happy to take questions on other matters after that. But if anyone has questions for Director Gabbard, you're welcome to ask them. We'll start with our new media seat as always. Emily, go ahead.
Thank you. And Director Gabbard, this one is for you. Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Ed, go ahead.
Multiple pieces of evidence and documents that confirm this fact. Now, this is where it kind of gets interesting. Speaker Mike Johnson joined Nick Soder on an X Spaces earlier today. I want you to listen to what Speaker Johnson says, because go back a few days to my show where I was talking about who I think the first arrest is going to be and when we're going to see the first arrest. And Alpha and I were talking about this in episode 1. We talked a little bit about last night. August is typically a very, very hot month. Your first indictment is going to come in August. Listen to this. And we've been saying this. Listen to Speaker Johnson here. I'm not sharing it. All right. He's being asked about Congress's recess that's coming up.
Work period. So the way this works in Congress, this is a tradition that goes back on the congressional calendar for many generations. There has to be a period during the calendar year, because Congress is in session year round, to go back home and really focus on constituents. You got to go be with your people. And August has traditionally been that period over the generations because it's so hot in D.C. They thought it was a good time to break. That's why it falls in August. So it's never been more important than it is right now, Gunther, for us as Republicans. And here's the reason why. We know that the Democrats and the mainstream media and all the left is engaging in this massive campaign of misinformation about what we're doing here on the Hill. The big, beautiful bill, is the subject of all of their crazy talking points. And of course, they're very methodical about it. They're very consistent. And they're out trying to convince people of something that is just simply not true. So we've got to get our members, all the House Republicans, out into the field. They got to go to their people, go to the town halls, go to the business roundtables, go meet with big groups and small groups of their constituents to tell them the truth, because the truth is on our side, and we can't wait to go sell that product. Congress is in session year round. To go back home and really focus on constituents, you got to go be with your people. And August has traditionally been that period over the generations because it's so hot in D.C. They thought it was a good time to.
It's so hot in D.C. I mean, August is typically a very, very hot month. Interesting. CB4D, Coats, B4D class, the month of August is traditionally very hot. You have more than you know. Now, Coats, obviously Dan Coats is what they're talking about there, but could it be things have to go cold before D class? Just a new way to look at it, because then it becomes very, very hot. Things have to go cold before they get hot. It's going to get very, very cold before D-class happens. That's what we just went through the last 4 years. And now it gets very hot. So something to remember. This happened at George Herbert Walker Bush's funeral. Now, Q mentioned this in the boards, but I want you to bring this back up. What was in the envelope?
This the strange scene of American nationalist President Donald J. Trump seated with the aging globalist cabal of past presidents and politicians. It was awkward. But there was something else odd going on. It was noticed that several of the globalist political players received an unexpected letter inside of their program. Hillary Clinton was the only one who kept her poker face when looking at the mysterious letter. Former Vice President Joe Biden appeared to be distressed when his wife found his. Laura Bush had a look of anger and could barely keep from staring at hers. And when she showed it to Jeb Bush, as his deceased father was being carried in front of him, he was distressed enough to take his hand from his heart, and he looked rather troubled by what he saw. The internet is abuzz with what these mystery letters are all about. Many who hope to see justice served in our corrupt American system speculate that this could be a foreboding message to America's traitorous first families. One can only hope.
What was in the letters? Do you remember what Q said about this specifically? Our promise to counter. Let's bring it up. Boom, right there. Post 2608. He's asked, what are in the envelopes? Our promise to counter. Why would they need a promise to counter? Because from 2016 to 2020, Donald Trump's presidency was not a presidency. It was impeded. It was restricted. It was cooed by the deep state. You had deep state actors inside the White House, inside the general counsel, inside the staff, rhinos and Democrats everywhere within the National Security Council, within the DOD, within the Pentagon, within the CIA, within the FBI, the DOJ. See, Donald Trump didn't have a real presidency from 2016 to 2020, even though he had many that were loyal to him. In other words, the coup attempt that occurred infringed upon Article 2 rights of the United States Constitution, of the powers of the President of the United States of America. What was in those letters was a promise to counter. I bet you it said something like, see ya in 2025, or pain is coming, pertaining to the Punisher. Now, today, Tulsi Gabbard went out and put this out. New evidence has emerged of the most egregious weaponization and politicalization of the intelligence in American history, per President Trump's directive. Now, notice, Bongino, Prakash Patel, Pam Bondi, Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard, all of them are coming out and they all say, per President Trump's directive, signifying and showing you 100% that they are working at the direction of President Donald J. Trump. I have declassified a House Intel Oversight Majority Staff report that exposes how the Obama administration manufactured the January 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment, the ICA, that they knew was false, promoting a lie that Vladimir Putin and the Russian government helped President Trump win the 2016 election. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people, working with their partners in the media to promote the lie in order to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump, essentially enacting a years-long coup against him. Now, look, the words that she chooses are so important here. A years-long coup against him. What did I just tell you? That they infringe on Article 2 powers of the President of the United States of America. They stopped Donald Trump from actually doing his job in 2016 to 2024 or 2020. Why is that important? It becomes important because that is the definition of a belligerent occupation. That is the definition of treason, as well as it enables Donald Trump to legally, through the court systems, to redo his first term as a duly elected president. And she says it right here, essentially enacting a years-long coup against him. So today, Tulsi Gabbard, as you just heard a few minutes ago, has announced she has officially referred former President Barack Obama to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution over FISA-gate. Do you ever think that you were going to hear something like that? Former President Barack Obama has been referred to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution over FISA-gate. So now we have John Brennan, we have James Comey, we have Barack Obama, and there's more to add to that list, or they're going to be coming out very, very soon. So what was in a lot of these declassified reports that came out today? Catherine Hetteridge, follow the pen right here. New declassified documents via Tulsi Gabbard challenged the 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment that Putin and the Russians developed a clear preference for President-elect Trump. Key pages 16 and 17. Declassified GOP House Intel report found Putin had more damaging information about candidate Clinton that could have been used against her in the final days of the 2016 campaign, but the information was held back. The ICA's generic description of material Putin held back makes the reader unaware of significant information available to Moscow to denigrate Secretary Clinton. Oh, I got to pull that up. Thanks, Roxy, for sending that to me. I'm going to put that right there. This violated ICD 203 directives that analysis be informed by all relevant information available, given that documents leaked during the election were far less damaging to Secretary Clinton than those Putin chose not to leak. Among the allegations that Clinton's health was extraordinarily alarming to President Obama and party leaders, Russian intelligence had details of secret meetings by State Department reps. And there's the full declassification link right there. Now, this is bigger than we can imagine. But how much bigger? So I have a lot of things that go over and over here, but John Brennan, and this is from Paul Sperry. John Brennan personally directed the suspicious tip underlining ICA collusion Putin allegedly helped Trump not be circulated in formal IC channels, and he only briefed the ICA team orally about it, raising suspicions. He tailored his message to convince dissenters it was sound. In other words, he lied his ass off about sources of intelligence to peddle Barack Obama's coup attempt against Donald Trump. Now, this is from John Harold. Quid pro quo. Russian FSB had details of secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations, which the U.S. State Department representatives offered in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton significant increases in financing from department funds. In other words, Russia wanted to buy Hillary Clinton, and they had the compromise on her to control her. The Clinton plan intelligence from the Durham report is actual email from Hillary Clinton's campaign. John says, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the fact that it was the actual campaign email is new information, and it is. That the Clinton email was basically disinformation on Donald Trump that was utilized by the IC community people. Now, everything that I've told you so far, I want you to see something. Does this picture make more sense now? Does this picture begin to make more sense now of Vladimir Putin handing the soccer ball over to Donald Trump, of which we know inside that soccer ball was a USB drive? What was on that USB drive? We've always asked and wondered. It was all the dirt that he had on Hillary Clinton, all the dirt he had on Barack Obama, FISA-gate. He handed it to Donald Trump because Donald Trump and him were playing the same game against the same people. So Russian foreign intelligence had DNC information showing Obama and party leaders found the status. We talked about this. I wanted to get into Hillary Clinton here, Hillary Clinton's health. I got to find that post real quick. My whole screen's blown up because I zoomed it in 500%. There we go. And let me pull this up real quick. It should have been right here. Let me close this down. Where is it? Oh, there it is. So, pull this one up. This explains a lot as well when we start to deep dive into it. Russian foreign intelligence had DNC information showing Obama and party leaders found the state of Secretary Hillary Clinton's health to be extraordinarily alarming. Hillary suffered from intensified psycho-emotional problems, including uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and tearfulness. Hillary was on heavy tranquilizers and remained obsessed with the thirst of power. Hillary had type 2 diabetes, ischemic heart disease, deep vein thrombosis, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And this comes directly from these internal reports. As of September 2016, Russian Foreign Intelligence Services, SVR, had Democrat National Committee information that President Obama and party leaders found the state of Secretary Hillary Clinton's health to be extraordinarily alarming. It felt it could have serious negative impact on her election prospects. Her health information was being kept in the strictest secrecy. Even close advisors were not being fully informed. The SRV possessed DNC communications that Clinton was suffering from intensified psycho-emotional problems, including uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and tearfulness. Now, I want to comment on that real quick. Do you want to know one of the long-term side effects of using adrenochrome? Intensified psycho-emotional problems, including fits of anger, aggression, and tearfulness. Just saying. Clinton was placed on a daily regime of heavy tranquilizers and was afraid of losing. She remained obsessed with the thirst of power. The SRV also had information that Clinton suffered from type 2 diabetes, ischemic heart disease, deep vein thrombosis, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. In other words, it sounds like Hillary should already be dead. I'm just saying. Sounds like Hillary is probably already dead because that's not good in the context of health. And this is back in 2015, 2016, people. Now, we have to understand one very, very important fact here. Understand this. FISA-gate was the coup to cover up their actual crimes. I will say that again. FISA-gate wasn't the actual crime. It was the crime they committed to cover up their actual crimes. And the years-long coup, we heard Mike Davis talk about this last night, led to 2 weaponized impeachments, disruption to the duties of the president, COVID-19, Summer of Love riots, 2020 election theft, J6, Trump Mar-a-Lago indictments, and attempted assassinations. That's what it all led to. And it's all interconnected. What were they covering up? A laundry list. And this is just probably the beginning of it. Opening of America's infrastructure up to China. Selling off of state secrets. Uranium One scandal. CIA knock list leak. Fast and Furious. Libya. Benghazi. Extortion 17. Funding and arming of terrorist organizations. Iran collusion. Ukraine coup. Offshore bioweapon development. Rigging elections. Money laundering. Human trafficking. Crimes against children. And the preparations for the end of America and the rise of global communism. That's what they were trying to cover up. They had spent 8 years building a system to exploit U.S. secrets, sell them off to the highest bidder, and undermine U.S. sovereignty and disintegrate the U.S. Constitution over a 16-year period. So FISA Gate, everything that came after, was all about covering up their global communist empire that they were creating and developing, that they simply had to get the United States out of the way first. So when we start talking about FISA Gate brings down the house, FISA Gate unlocks the doors of all doors, this is why movie one is playing. This is why this is coming out right now. Because once you begin pulling this string, now you start looking at all this stuff. And you see that the two weaponized impeachments were directed by the DNC, who had control of the House of Representatives at the time, and rhinos in the Senate. What does that mean? It means that the information utilized to impeach Donald, not once but twice, I must have hit a chord, was falsified information. It was concocted information that was brought about simply for the fact of impeaching and stopping Donald Trump. They disrupted the duties of the president. Article 2 powers. They impeded Donald Trump from actually doing the job as a duly elected president. It was a coup, belligerent occupation from the get-go. COVID-19, Summer of Love riots, 2020 election theft. All three of those are interrelated to each other. We know from the DNI report that came out on January 17th, 2020, that China interfered with the 2020 election. We learn in 2025, after declassification comes about, that China was actively running campaigns in the United States to register fake, fictitious people to vote, utilizing the mail-in ballot scheme. Now, the piece that we have to put together is that the mail-in ballots only worked because of COVID, which was released by China. In other words, the DNC colluded with a foreign adversary, China, in order to steal the 2020 election. So now you go from FISA Gate, which doesn't really show true collusion, but now you expand that out to the 2020 election theft, and now you have treason. You have treason against this country. An act of war by a foreign adversary. The undermining of U.S. elections. And they didn't stop there. They set up patriots and Americans on January 6th. 25 FBI and other intel agency people infiltrated into the crowd to instigate riots and protests. Mar-a-Lago and indictments. They went after Donald Trump. They raided his home looking for classified material. A funny comment came out the other day. Do you think I keep my classified material near my underwear drawer? Hell no. And that's the truth. What were they looking for? We know what they were looking for. We know they were looking for Donald Trump's dirt that he got from Vladimir Putin. Probably the Wiener laptop files, Hillary Clinton emails, probably all of the dirt on the Obama administration that had been captured over an 8-year period, the same dirt that the NSA got that they could not utilize in a court of law that was later deleted by the deep state actors. What else were they looking for? Epstein information. We've talked about the Epstein information. Now think about it. The Epstein information. Donald Trump just played the Democrats and the mainstream media like a fucking fiddle with Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to get into this part here in a second, but it's interesting. What were they covering up? One of the biggest things for me is the selling of state secrets. I wrote a Substack blog today that kind of gives a thorough overview of the things I've been talking about on DEFCON 0 the last few weeks. SAP, sell-off, Clinton emails, and treason. I'm just going to bring up one part here. Between 2010 and 2012, the CIA suffered its worst intelligence failure in a generation. At least 20 to 30 deep cover agents, known as NOCs, in China were captured or killed. Some were executed in public as a message. The exact same time, Hillary Clinton's unsecured private email server, which handled some of the most sensitive classified programs in the U.S. government, was live, wide open, and transmitting special access program content to China. That's just the beginning of it, guys. This is what we're talking about when we see these people committed treason against our country. They got Americans killed many times over. Do you want to read that article? redpillproject.substack.com. Subscribe over there if you can support us. Thank you. It's appreciated. redpillproject.substack.com. This goes in depth into all of this, even bringing in Jake Sullivan, who, by the way, if you don't know who Jake Sullivan is, Jake Sullivan is what I would consider to be a deep state intelligence apparatus handler of politicians. In other words, you put him with politicians that need guidance. He is the string of the puppet master. He is the one that is put in place to guide the politician in the right direction that the puppet masters want them to go. Now, if you go look at Barack Obama, his national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, then he becomes the national security advisor or deputy chief of staff to Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. Then he becomes national security advisor to Joe Biden. Then Donald Trump has a 4-year term, and then he becomes the national security advisor once again to President Joe Biden. But what's interesting about Jake Sullivan, and I point this out in another post on here, and if you type in Hunter Biden in the search function up here, there is, of course, it's not going to come up. Of course, it's not going to come up. I guess that's the wrong way to do it. Well, I wish Substack, if you're hearing me right now, let's get this fixed so that we can easily search because I feel stupid now. But there's a post on here about Hunter Biden, and it's Hunter Biden, Jake Sullivan connection. I wonder if Jake Sullivan will come up. There it is. Panic in D.C., Hunter Biden and Jake Sullivan connection. Okay? And when you start to go into this, you start realizing who Jake Sullivan actually is. Jake Sullivan was a proxy between the State Department, CIA, and relationship management. Sullivan was Hunter's handler, as he was with many. Jake Sullivan was deputy assistant to President Obama and national security advisor to Vice President Joe Biden. He was Biden's top security aide in February 2013 after Clinton stepped down as Secretary of State. Before that, he was Secretary Clinton's deputy chief of staff. Sullivan in Benghazi. He led Secretary Clinton's Libya foreign policy during Benghazi, the Arab Spring, and the overthrowing of Gaddafi. This was right out of the CIA's handbook for regime change. It's safe to say that Obama did not trust Secretary Clinton that much. Therefore, Jake Sullivan was implemented as Clinton's handler at this time. Remember, during this time, the U.S. was clandestinely running guns and money into Libya to arm political opposition as well, creating proxy operations to fund and arm rebel groups in Syria to overthrow Assad, which formed the group known today as ISIS and ISIL. Sullivan worked as Clinton's close confidant on the Libya plan, which was developed months in advance in October 2011 takedown of long-running dictator Muammar Gaddafi, just as the Arab Spring accelerated. This was followed by almost 11 months later of the slaying of Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other American contractors in Benghazi, yet those tragedies are only a portion of the Libya quandary. Libya and Ukraine are rich in natural resources. We're talking trillions of dollars. Libya is rich in gas and oil, groundwater resources. By utilizing these, Gaddafi was able to get around Western measures like the World Bank and IMF. Becoming independent would break the chain of control that Western intelligence had over Libya. And this goes on. It talks about Ukraine, how Jake Sullivan was at the heart of Ukraine, that he was advising Hunter Biden during the time that Hunter Biden was on the board of directors to Burisma. He's a critical component in the infrastructure of all this. So if you guys want to read those, redpillproject.substack.com. Some great stuff out there. Now, Senator Warner has been very vocal about DNI Gabbard coming out with Obama. He said, identifying FBI source to undermine Russian probe could be a crime. Top Democrat Senate Intelligence Committee warned Friday that his colleagues could be committing a crime if they obtain the identity of a secret FBI source and use it to undermine the ongoing investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Now, this is from 5/18/2018. That was Joseph Musfed, right? So Sliplanya here says Warner is shit scared because he covered up Steph Helper, who was the CIA British MI6 operative Brennan sent to the FBI in conjunction with Christopher Steele to start the espionage investigation into Donald Trump. In other words, they colluded with MI6, sent former spies in the U.S. with fake dirt concocted by Hillary Clinton, paid for through Fusion GPS, to get the intelligence to make it look legitimized. Now, yesterday, Senator Warren comes out and says everything that Tulsi Gabbard, DNI Tulsi Gabbard, is saying is contradicted by the Senate intelligence report on this matter from 2017. What they don't tell you, what Mark Warner doesn't tell you, is that the information utilized for that Senate intelligence report that determined that Russia had interfered in the 2016 election was the same dirt that we're questioning right now and bringing out, showing you that's absolutely fake and false, all leading back to Steph Helper, all leading back to Christopher Steele, MI6, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Fusion GPS, Bruce and Ellie Noor. In other words, Senator Warner is admitting to knowingly covering up FISA-gate through the Senate Intel Committee. Republican Burr was right there with him, since retired. Obama ordered Brennan to publish unverified intel to frame Trump. A declassified intel report that we just talked about here a little while ago reveals that President Obama's order, CIA Director Brennan directed the release of raw human before the 2016 election, including reporting that CIA officers said failed to meet publication standards. Some of the intel was vague or from unknown sources, but was still included in the ICA over objections of veteran CIA officers. It was used to support the claim that Putin aspired to help Trump, when in actuality, there was no evidence to substantiate that whatsoever. Today, the House Oversight Panel has voted to authorize subpoenas for Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Bill Barr, Merrick Garland, Eric Holder, and Robert Mueller in connection with the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Subpoenas will be issued in the near future, according to the House Oversight Committee spokesperson. Now, isn't that interesting? The same people involved in FISA-gate are now getting subpoenaed in Congress for Epstein files. Wait a minute, Josh. Are you telling me there's a cross-correlation? Yes, I'm telling you there's a cross-correlation between all this information. Of course there is. Because what happens in the back end, you know, going back to the Podesta emails and understanding that dark network that's really back there, that's the heart of this matter. That's the puppet masters. And they have a very, very dark legacy. Incredibly dark. And in order to unravel all of this, you have to hit that at its core. And so all three movies playing at the same time. Guardians of the Pedophiles, Epstein. Panic in D.C., Senate, Congress. FISA-gate, former administration. It's all playing right now, right in front of our eyes. We just covered that part. So the House panel directs chairman to subpoena Bill and Hillary Clinton. So now it's Bill and Hillary Clinton in the Epstein probe by the House. Representative Comer came out today and said he has issued a subpoena to Ghislaine Maxwell for a deposition to occur at Federal Correctional Institute, Tallahassee on August 11, 2025. The Department of Justice is cooperating. It will help facilitate that deposition at prison. Now, what did I say last night? Is it possible that Ghislaine Maxwell is trying to strike a deal with the Trump administration? Absolutely. The bitch has spent 5 years in jail. Now, why is she in jail? Because that's the way that Trump wanted. That Trump wanted to ensure that she stayed in jail. By the time that he came back out, she's ready to talk. Now, we just hear from Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's former attorney, that Ghislaine Maxwell will strike a deal with the Trump DOJ over Epstein intel. You got to remember what Anna Paula Luna said. She said, former deputy director of the FBI, Abbott, destroyed key third-party evidence of the Epstein files. In other words, they destroyed evidence that basically brought the criminal organization all together. It's gone. But we know, number one, Ghislaine Maxwell has been well protected in maximum security prison. She was arrested soon after Epstein's death, which means that she most likely had received but not able to release the compromise of Epstein's files, insurance policy, dead man switch. But then also, you have Steve Bannon. And I'd love to ask Steve Bannon this question. Steve, what did you and Jeffrey Epstein actually talk about for the year time that you spent with him, or the 6 months or whatever it was? Because you left the White House, and then just a few months later after leaving the White House, you're hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein for 6 to 12 months. Now, Steve, I don't think you're doing anything nefarious. I don't think you're involved in any of this stuff. But what I do think was happening is that you were working for President Donald J. Trump, that you were an intelligence asset for Donald J. Trump, relating a message to Jeffrey Epstein, going in there and recording 16 hours of interview footage that's never been seen. Most likely that tells me that you went in there and you got Jeffrey Epstein to spill the beans and tell it all and put it all on camera. And he probably even handed you some files which you have kept secret over the years, holding it for this exact moment right now in history. And whether Jeffrey Epstein is alive on WITSEC, or Jeffrey Epstein was killed through a Rommel trial or murdered by Mossad, it doesn't matter. The preservation of that information is there. And if you have Jeffrey Epstein's direct testimony evidence on camera, and then you have Ghislaine Maxwell who testifies and corroborates that video testimony evidence, you got him. Now, the DOJ told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files. Being mentioned in the records isn't a sign of wrongdoing. The official said it was a routine briefing that covered a number of topics, and Trump's appearance in the documents wasn't the focus. Now, you got to remember, if you know Epstein and Trump's history, Trump is very open about this. I knew Ghislaine. I knew Jeffrey Epstein. We were friends, New York socialites. It was just business. 2009, Donald Trump was one of the only people, high-level people, that actually talked with investigators and prosecutors in the Florida case and gave them all and everything that they wanted. He kicked out Jeffrey Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in 2009 and banned him from the premises. That should tell you all you need to know about the character of Donald J. Trump. But is it true that he's in the Epstein files? It's not what people think it is. It was nothing more than a ploy by Elon Musk. And Elon Musk pointed him. Donald Trump's in the Epstein files. Steve Bannon's in the Epstein files. And what do we find? Yeah, they're both in there. Number one, Donald Trump's in there, mentioned probably a few times in a sense of associations. Nothing compromising, no compromise there. And then Steve Bannon's in there, probably the same thing, but probably much, much deeper, because I think that Elon was pointing us in the right direction, that Bannon has it all. And that's why they've gone after Bannon all these years, because they knew he had something. Now, Jordan Sather said this today, and I find it incredibly interesting. Isn't it interesting how Virginia Guthrie committed suicide, quote unquote, she didn't commit suicide, just a couple of months ago? Someone who testified that Trump did nothing nefarious with Epstein. And now we get fake accusers coming out in media campaigns trying to paint Trump as a sex trafficker. In other words, one witness that could exonerate Donald Trump completely. Someone who is there during these time frames was killed, blamed on a suicide. I wonder who that was. But when we have Jeffrey Epstein's video evidence, when we have Ghislaine Maxwell testifying, that is going to absolutely exonerate Trump, but it's going to throw the deep state under the bus. Today, the Department of Justice has announced the formation of a strike force to access evidence publicized by ODNI. So the Department of Justice announced a formation of a strike force to access the evidence publicized by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and investigate potential next legal steps which might stem from DNI Gabbard's disclosure. This department takes alleged weaponization of the intelligence community with the utmost seriousness. Upon the formation of strike force, Attorney General Pamela Bondi stated, the Department of Justice is proud to work with my dear friend and Director Gabbard, and we are grateful for her partnership in delivering accountability for the American people. We will investigate these troubling disclosures fully and leave no stone unturned to deliver justice. So it's happening, people. It's truly happening. That the deep state is being exposed, that we are seeing criminal referrals sent to the DOJ when the DOJ is actually in the process to do something about it. The evidence is being declassified. And like I said, FISA-gate, this is the biggest crime that we know about of the century. But where does it lead to? It leads to everything after and everything before. And then all of that leads to this behind dark legacy of this infrastructure of the globalists, of what they were trying to do, the one world government, new world order, of their dark secrets and their criminal organizations. How do you cut the head off the snake? You dismantle it one system at a time, and that's what we are truly seeing right now. Now, on a side note, Donald Trump is the master genius of the art of the deal. Guys, I read this and I'm like, what? Donald Trump said today, we just completed a massive deal with Japan, perhaps the largest deal ever made. Japan will invest at my direction $550 billion in the United States, which will receive 90% of the profits. This deal will create hundreds of thousands of jobs. There has never been anything like it. In other words, Donald Trump just got a $550 billion investment in the United States, of where the profits derived from that investment, 90% of them go into the sovereign wealth fund. You see where I'm going with that? Japan will open their country to trade, including cars and trucks, rice and certain agricultural products and other things. Wait. Donald Trump just sold rice to Japan. Donald Trump just sold rice to Japan. It's pretty profound, people. All right. These stories came across my desk today, and I have to bring them up. Because the other day we talked about, last night, DEFCON 0. DEFCON 0 was 11-3 is the first marker. And that's what we were talking about, is 11-3 was the end of the belligerent occupation signified by Donald Trump marching troops and tanks down Washington, D.C. on the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army, and then raising the flags at the White House, signifying the end of the belligerent occupation of Washington, D.C. Right? And I told you, it was a coup for 8 years of Washington, D.C. by these people that undermined Donald Trump from 2016 to 2020, stole the 2020 election. So, post 4587. I'm going to bring this up now because I think this is really important. C19 narrative, kill date, election day +1. Prepare for 0-day massive cyber power attacks, attempts on 11.4. 11.4 is right after 11.3. It's a marker telling you that after 11.3 is signified, 11.4 comes about. Now it says C19 narrative kill date, election day +1. He wasn't wrong about that. Then the second line is separate from the context of the first. Prepare for 0-day massive cyber power attack attempts on 11.4, second marker. Why am I bringing this up? This was 2 days ago. Alaska Airlines has lifted their ground stop after IT outage affects operations. They grounded their entire fleet around the world 3 days ago. Nobody knows why. Do you remember a month ago, Portugal, Spain, France, how there was a power outage? How the Ren power facility, which was formerly owned by China up until 2022, with compromising hardware in place, had a power outage that looked very eerily similar to a cyber attack? Do you remember during the Biden administration when the 911 communication systems were going out nationally, even at point times, completely out nationally? Do you remember during the Biden administration, the over 220 food processing, manufacturing, and distribution facilities that were attacked, the gas refineries? Do you remember the people arrested for shooting .308 rifles at the electric infrastructure grid at 6 various different critical points? 2014 in California, 2 foreign nationals did the same thing in California on the grid. Do you remember during the Biden administration, when there was hacks on Facebook and Rumble and X, and how we had DDoS attacks all the time? People are wondering why everything's loading, because there's DDoS attacks going on right now. Guys, the deep state don't fuck around. I've said it from the get-go. They will scorch this earth before they ever give up power and control. And they will scorch the earth before they ever pay for their crimes or have accountability. In other words, we need to buckle up. There's something happening right now. Now, I came across this article and I'm wondering why this isn't mainstream media. This isn't on the mainstream news. U.S. Nuclear Weapons Agency breached using Microsoft SharePoint hack. Wait, what? It says no sensitive or classified information was reportedly compromised in the attack, but the U.S. government agency in charge of designing and maintaining nuclear weapons was among those breached by a hack of Microsoft SharePoint server software, according to Bloomberg. However, attackers weren't able to obtain any sensitive or classified information, according to an unnamed source with knowledge on this matter. The breach occurred at the National Nuclear Security Administration, an arm of the Department of Energy, responsible for producing and dismantling nuclear arms. On Friday, July 18th, the exploitation of Microsoft's SharePoint zero-day vulnerability began affecting the Department of Energy. A small number of systems were impacted. All impacted systems were being restored. Well, you go on in this article, and it talks about a lot more than just that. So, the SharePoint flaw is a serious one, allowing hackers to access file systems, the internal configurations, and even execute code to completely take over systems. The flaw could put more than 10,000 companies at risk, according to Census, a cybersecurity company. So there's other parts of this that are in other reports, and you kind of got to patch all of this together. And let me pull up another one here that's going to have a little bit more information. Because this other article talks about how, there it is, cybersecurity researchers detected the breach on over 100 servers across 60 different organizations. These include energy firms, consulting companies, and universities. Now, you know how they just said that no classified information was leaked? I beg to differ. July 21st, 2025. Engineer pleads guilty to stealing for Chinese government benefit trade secret technology designed for missile launch and detection. Just happened. Now, why am I saying this? The deep state, they have power still, guys. They have allies. They have nation state actors. You gotta remember, Obama was funding Iran and North Korea. Expect fireworks. I don't think that this is going to be a soft kill situation to where the DOJ is just going to go out there, put indictments out, and these people are going to be arrested. They're going to fight back. And they're going to fight back with all the various tactics of asymmetrical warfare that you can think of and hybrid warfare that you can think of, including cyber and AI. Attacks on the electric grid, telecommunications, energy infrastructure. We have transportation. We have government agencies. It's coming. And I'm warning you right now, it's not going to be pretty. With that, I hope I'm wrong. I seriously do hope I'm wrong. But time will tell. Guys, I'm camping the next few days. If I can do some content, I'll put it out there, but I'll definitely be active on Substack and X, so make sure you are following over there, redpillproject.substack.com, as well as my X at RealJoshuaReed. Make sure you're following, liking. Give me that thumbs up on Rumble, guys. We've been trending for the last 3 days. Let's get us trending again. It definitely helps. Appreciate it. And don't forget, if you're interested in getting into crypto, if you're interested in getting into the new financial system that is running parallel, that is coming up, thecryptofuture.com. Use that discount code 2025 discount for 50% off. Much love, respect. God bless, guys. Take care. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you next time.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell!"